I may still end up putting it upside down. Who knows? I just decided to do the wheels first. Don't know why. After some measuring, I have come up with a preliminary approach. On its side, it's about 149.5 centimeters wide, 39 centimeters deep, and 79 centimeters high. So this picture is not proportionate, it's just a rough sketch. It should actually be taller than the picture provides. But I just needed to write down the numbers and get a kind of an idea. And I then measured the desktop. The desktop is 151 centimeters wide, 65 centimeters deep, and 5 centimeters high. The height's not that important, but it should add up once you add the wheels to 90. So the wheels are 6 centimeters high, as Mrs. Maker has reminded me. So 79 plus 6 is 85, and then 5 more for the desktop surface gets you to 90. So that's going to be the right height once it's all assembled. So then I started thinking about, okay, how do I fit this narrow, tall base onto a wide, flat top? And I did a few sketches about where I might want to put it. I thought about drifting it 10 centimeters along, but that only leaves 15 centimeters, like 7 inches or less, projecting out for your knees to fit under. That just didn't feel quite right. And then I moved it back to 7.5, which gets you a good 7 inches. That still doesn't feel right. So I'm going to move it 5 centimeters for the back lip, I suppose you could call it, and then the rest will project out 20 centimeters, and that's as far as I think I'm willing to drift it off center. We'll see how that feels. The base is quite heavy, so I'm hoping that that's going to work out. And as for stiffening, I'm going to just use a standard IKEA back for a bookcase called Billy. It's 40-ish centimeters wide, and it should fit along one row of the KALLAX, and thereby sort of acting as a pinion. Now I might put it centered up on the middle part there, because that would stiffen the entire structure considerably, and everything is recessed a little bit. As you can see, the shelves were inserted in pins. They're just floating in pins, and everything is held together with tension using this hex bolt. So if I really wanted to fill in that back, I would have to come up with a piece of lumber that's sort of slotted into the back. For now, what I'd like to do is I'd just like to stabilize what's in there to a certain degree, and I think that the best way to do that would be simply to fit that back along these crosses and then put a nail on each axis so that it's all sort of held in place, and at least some of the wiggle is taken out of the KALLAX. So that's the general idea, and what that'll do is it will also allow air and light through, and the upper shelves will have a retainer so nothing can drop, and the lower shelves will have a retainer but on the upper part of the cross. So they'll have light sneaking through the bottom, and the top will be closed, whereas with the top part, the bottom will be closed and air and light can move through the top. There's going to be about a 20 centimeter gap either way. That should be okay. So that's the next thing, is just shave down, measure and shave the back, which is white on the back side, to fit within this recess, and nail it in. So Mrs. Maker wants the white side pointing towards the outside and the brown pointing towards the inside, because the back of this thing will be visible from the living room area, and she doesn't want to stare at a brown thing. So that's fine. We'll do it her way, happily so. And I'll show you what it looks like once it's mounted. The back is on the KALLAX, and as you can see, it kind of sort of worked out okay. That should be enough support for lateral resistance to being pushed around. It's not like this thing is going to get pushed around a lot, but I did want to give it some stiffness. In an ideal world, what I would have done is used a one-piece back to enclose the entire rear. So if you have those kind of resources, I would recommend you do so. But I'm building this project entirely from discarded or about to be discarded pieces of IKEA furniture that would otherwise, as Mrs. Makers pointed out to me, they would have otherwise ended up in a landfill. I mean, the stuff isn't high quality, and neither is it super durable. It's basically a particle board and paper. And she was telling me how wonderful she thought it was that I was taking a couple of pieces of furniture that would have been thrown away and making something new from them, or new-ish when you think about it. And I thought I'd just transmit that along. I didn't really think about it that way. I just thought of it as an interesting intellectual challenge to take two things that were never supposed to go together and put them together. But she pointed out to me an entirely new aspect of this project, which is the upcycling aspect. And I think that's worth mentioning and discussing a little tiny bit. So this back is from a billy. It's around 40 centimeters in width, and the height was greater than that of the KALLAX, so I ended up just using a utility knife to score the appropriate length and then kind of snap it down over a straight edge. I used the edge of the desk there to snap it down. I mean, it's just particle board. There's really nothing there. It's like thick cardboard, really. So anyways, what I ended up doing was mounting that up with nails I had recovered from taking apart this billy. And what I did was I put one on each end to sort of just orient it, and then I put three on each of these downward members, and that should provide some kind of stability. In the end, I will most likely cover that with another piece of backing, which is probably going to be the same perimeter as the outside measure of this KALLAX, or close to it. And that will provide it with a tremendous amount of stiffness against being pushed. Now that we have the back on, the next challenge is, of course, I've decided to mount the wheels. The reason why is because I don't want to put the unit down on the tabletop once I've mounted it, because I don't want to scratch it. So I'll put the wheels down first and work upside down instead of, I may still end up putting it upside down, who knows. I just decided to do the wheels first, don't know why. I mean, I'm trying to rationalize it, but really I just went after the wheels because they seemed easy. I've already got the thing on the top. It's already upside down basically, so why not put the wheels on? We'll see if that was a smart move or not. Like I was explaining, it's very likely that I'll be ordering a full-size perimeter back soon, so that piece there will act as the shim, because there is an inset, and now that this back is on there, it's almost perfectly flush, the nail head being the difference, and that shouldn't be a big difference. And if there is a perimeter back, this is going to end up being real stiff. But let's talk about the wheels. Wheels have 4-hole, they're swivel type. So I just got me a screw that I think is substantial enough to go in there and hold the wheel in place. Again, this is not a heavy-duty piece of equipment. It just needs to be rolled around on a tile floor. It's not like there's a huge amount of resistance or energy that's going to be poured in there. The only thing you have to watch out for is you don't want your screws to be hitting another screw. And what these screws do is they hold the KALLAX together, at least for now. So what I did was I backed in around 2 centimeters off the front face there, and just drew the circles. I'll be using my Mosta impact driver and drill, the $10 drill that I refurbished simply by changing out the battery. So I bought it on the street for $10 because they thought it was broken, but it wasn't broken. It just had a bad battery. And when I bought this impact driver, it came with a battery, so now I'm just swapping the battery between the two until I fix the old battery. And then we have these screws. They're maybe 1.25 inches or so. I'll drill pilot holes and mount up these wheels lickety split. Well, it'll take no time whatsoever. The only thing I'm going to do is maybe double measure the distance between those holes and that ultra critical hex bolt, because I don't want to jeopardize it in any way. It's holding the whole thing together, and it looks okay. It looks like there's going to be about a half a cm. So if you put this wheel on and you line it up with the holes, the wheel doesn't really project out past the front all that much. So I suppose I could move it 5 millimeters or so. So I mean, I could mount it just a wee bit closer to the face. It's not going to kill anybody, and that might be it might be better to put some meat around those back screws just to make sure that when and if there is a certain amount of additional pushing force, that the screw doesn't get torn out. The other thing I might do is I might mount with 2 different side screws. I might put longer screws in the outside perimeter and shorter ones in the inside. And that's only because I'm kind of short on long screws. I have a few, but I don't have 16. I may have 8. And 8 would be enough to do the perimeter, but not the inside. So big long screws far away from that bolt there, and little shorter screws on the inside. We'll see how it works out. But basically, I'm just taking stuff around the house and making a piece of furniture. That was the whole idea behind this IKEA hacking challenge, was to try to not bring any new stuff in aside from the wheels, which I did have to buy. But everything else is just sitting around. This KALLAX came with Bamboo House, and this desk here was basically given to us by somebody who was leaving Hong Kong, and we just had to basically cover the cost of getting it from A to B. I think it was $15, yeah, something like that. So the whole island is going to cost under $30, maybe under 20 to put together. I don't know. I think these wheels were cheap. They were like $2 each. So let's say under 30. Anyways, so that's the latest consideration, is just mounting the wheel to the point where it's strong enough to handle energy being poured into it, and not jeopardizing any existing screw holes. So that's the stage we're at now, and I'll show you what it looks like once I've put it all together, and I'll tell you what decisions I finally made. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, giving me a like, and leaving me a comment. I really enjoy making these videos, and I want to know from you how I can make them better. The whole point of these videos is to demonstrate that if I can do something, you can do it too. Well, that's it for now. So long, and remember, keep making.